Thank you for listening to the Allender Center podcast. I'm Dr. Dan Allender.
And I'm Rachel Clinton Chen. We're fiercely committed to providing hope and healing to a fragmented world.
And restoration for the heart.
Thank you for joining us. Let's get this conversation started.
Well, Rachel, I know this makes no sense to our audience, but hopefully they can bear just a moment. So what do you think of my new shirt?
As I told you, it was hard for me to actually tell it was a new shirt because it follows the same form and structure of most of your shirts, but I was aware it was a new color.
Yeah.
And I feel like I really enjoy it. It's a great color.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a fishing shirt. I don't really want clothing that does not take me to the water, literally. I'm not going to buy something that I can't use when I fish. On the other hand, even when I'm not fishing, I want to be reminded that I could be fishing and that in some sense, everything that I get to do is a form of fishing. Yeah. Well, I bring that up because a dear friend who owns a really lovely company called Buffalo. Isn't that incredible? Buffalo Jackson is the name of the company, sent me like 8 shirts. And for Thanksgiving, it was like, I get a gift for Thanksgiving. I don't know why. It's just, in this season, I've been basically wearing shorts and T-shirts. So this is literally, I think, the second shirt I've had on in about 9 months. Yet Becky was really pissed because she has this view of clothing at this time in our life that if anything comes in, something else has to go out.
Yeah, I respect that. Yeah.
That's just nuts.
No, I feel like that's wise. That's wise.
Like you can buy more hangers. Fold it up and hide it under a corner. Anyway, so that was the tension of Thanksgiving. Like I opened this box right before Thanksgiving and I got this new shirt and she immediately was like, well, what are you going to get rid of? And nothing. Well, no, we need to go and look at the shirts you haven't worn. And are you going to wear all these shirts? And it's like, damn it, woman. Don't rain on my Thanksgiving Day gift. So that was my Thanksgiving. Rachel, let me ask, how are you going to participate in the gift of Thanksgiving?
Well, for me, it's actually, we talked last week about the tension, and that has felt true in this Thanksgiving week, more true. And I was so grateful we had this conversation so that I could let it take up residence in my body. But what is true for me in my own calendar is that my birthday directly follows Thanksgiving. So this coming week, I actually celebrate the conclusion of another journey around the sun, which in the midst of this year feels very worth celebrating. And also my stepson, he has a birthday 2 days after mine. And so I think in some ways the gift of getting to be with family, the sorrow of leaving, not knowing when we'll see them again, and what that will look like. This will be my first Christmas not at home. So, there's just a lot this season brings, but I've always been a big birthday celebrator. I think part of that is like my mom did a really good job when we were kids. Like we got to pick the meal for the day and, like what will really bring you joy. And so I've always been someone who's like, I'm going to celebrate the crap out of my birthday. Like I have a hard time understanding. What's funny about me is I don't even need people to come along with me. Now my healing has invited me to take that risk to say maybe that will make it that much more sweet. But I'm one of those people who's like, I'm doing the birthday party I want. If you like it, great. If you don't, great. Like I've gone two-stepping and I've gone to karaoke. I've done like jazz nights where I'm like, okay, most people are not going to come to like the jazz lounge and pay like $40 for a ticket. And so again, I'm back in this place of Michael asked me, how do you want to celebrate your birthday? And I just drew blank. One, because it's COVID. And I said, well, in an ideal world, we'd go to the symphony, or we'd do something special. I'm 3,000 miles away from most of my friends that I want to celebrate my birthday with. So I'm kind of back in that tension where like such gratitude for the, as weird as it is to say, like the gift of my life, and pondering and remembering all the hallmark thresholds of this past year, and the fight to receive a new year with joy and with delight.
Well, two things that, two words that I want to hold. Becky wasn't that unhappy with my gift, but there was tension. And I think most of us think that gratitude, being thankful, removes the tensions of life. And we've tried our level best to say, no, gratitude actually enables you to hold greater grief.
Yeah.
It allows you to, in one sense, step into even greater tensions. Look, every family gathering, as much as I think our family really does adore and love one another, there are tensions galore. And sometimes we make fun of one another's tensions, sometimes we ignore it, but bottom line, nobody is naive that there aren't tensions. So somehow the notion that gratitude relieves it, exculpates it, not true. So as you have entered into, I think, a very complex period, not only for your life, your marriage, your mothering, the Seattle School, the Allender Center, what a year. And we'll finish off the year talking about the year. But again, if this has not opened the possibility of holding more tension, I think what I want to at least allure our mind to is that as we come to the end of this Thanksgiving, we are on the precipice of Advent. And Advent, from my standpoint, is a season of tension, not just because of shopping and the insanity of how we live our lives in that 3 or 4 week period of time, but the narrative, the coming of God, is a tense, complex, wild narrative. So I'm wanting you to at least walk with us. How has gratitude opened your heart to more tension, particularly the tension of the Advent?
I mean, such a good question, such a complex question. To me, when I am experiencing true gratitude that is born out of the dirt, it is an expansion of my heart. And it's also deeply humbling, right? Because gratitude is an utterance that there has been gifting that in some ways it feels real close. Gratitude to me feels like the expression that comes when we have encountered grace. When there's a sense of my heart is saying thank you. And I think for me, I've tended to be like, I sign all my emails graciously, Rachel Clinton Chen. And that's been a really intentional expression for me, because there is something about wanting to have a heart that is moved easily to gratitude. I would say in this particular season, when gratitude has been so heightened with the terror of what could be lost, like there have been so many moments where death feels closer, like a kind of breathing in your face close. There have been so many moments, like, for example, where I'll be sitting with Michael and we'll have just a really tender moment that, again, is changing my heart, where in the same breath as I am uttering, thank you, God, for this gift that I never thought I would taste, comes the terror of like, can I actually take this in if I could someday lose it? Can I let my heart taste such goodness if I don't get to keep it? Like, could I actually bear that kind of agony? And it's such an embodied expression. That's what I mean, like that humility of like, it just gets us close to the dirt. So when I think about the ways in which, and I would say I'm a pretty complex woman. I would say I'm a woman who's already living in profound tension. This has been a year that has grown my capacity to say thank you and to grieve, because I also think any good gift that is worthy of gratitude is, if we're paying attention, if we're connected to each other, often highlights disparity as well. And we know that good gifts are meant to be like given back in ways that expand the blessing. And so I think that's one of the ways that the tension grows. It's not a feeling guilty. It's not a feeling guilty that there's a sense of thank you, but it is a sense of like, how is my thank you meant to be exponential? So when I think about the incarnation, God coming to be with us through the humility of a newborn body and fleshed, at the mercy of our human processes of even birthing, God willing to be birthed. I just think to have that kind of presence and proximity to God, and to know what we know in our story, that proximity to the flesh of God, like, is but a moment in the story. And our Christian expression, we say thank you because all the faithful acts of Jesus bring about a new reality of this already not yet kingdom. And can we let ourselves bear that God was with us, and to think about what that means, knowing that the not yet is also with us?
All right, let me check this out. Are you fond of grace?
I'm fond of giving grace.
I didn't ask that.
Grace, when I receive grace, when Michael tries to bring me grace, I fight him I basically am like, punish me, punish me, punish me. And there's something about that heaping burning coals of kindness that grace brings, where you feel indebted in a way that feels so risky and so scary. And like, you're going to just already you can imagine the ways you're going to like blow up this good, like the ways in which you're going to disappoint the giver of this gift. Like, no, I'm not fond of it.
All right. That's my premise as well. And I'm sure, look, we know you're whacked. We know you're whacked. And I'm been compared to the French meter of normalcy, but nonetheless, I'm not terribly normal. But I think we have to say gratitude comes from grace. But grace is just so disruptive, creates such tension. Tell me I need to walk across glass. Yeah. I'll do it. Tell me I've failed. I know it. But tell me I'm beloved. Tell me that I have been gifted with a goodness I don't deserve. And it defrauds me as it saves me, and requires a humility to actually receive goodness. Yeah. And in that, we're talking now about what should be the basis of gratitude, but also tension. Like, I love my new shirt. I didn't enjoy Becky reminding me I've got to throw 8 or 9 shirts away, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to hide them and then tell her.
Becky, I hope you're listening to this.
Yeah, she won't. But that tension of receiving and then knowing, oh, it's so undeserved. And yet in that, to be beloved is to enter one of the greatest tensions of the narrative of God's arrival in the presence of the body and the person of Jesus Christ. So I think we think of the holiday season, Christmas, gifts, It's absurd what we've done to Christmas instead of having Advent be an intensification
Yeah.
of, in some ways, the drama of redemption is the exposure of the war. And certainly we see that politically, probably up until the day of the new inauguration. There's just tension in the air. Can we say this is what Advent brings? This is what gratitude brings us to, an even deepened sense of the potential of loss.
Mm. Mm.
And you named that so well. I mean, one of the things that I have done many Thanksgivings is to write a letter to my wife about what she has meant in my heart and life over the span of the year. I don't think there's anyone to whom I am more grateful as a human being than my wife. But it also, winter, darkness, we're pretty much in the winter of our lives. The reality of, I can't even allow myself to begin to imagine what a single hour, let alone day, would be like without her presence. So when you hold gratitude, the reality of loss is much closer. The reality of tension is much deeper. And therefore, the complexity of we can't escape the already not yet. So as we talk through that, I just wonder if you want to put words to how you think people are dismissing us.
Oh, like this conversation?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to some extent, sometimes you and I can go to really nuanced places that we have spent many years cultivating a language system for and an understanding of what we mean. So I could see some people being like, what in the heck are they talking about? I also think no one is fond of tension. And I think if you want to diagnose some of our greatest giving our heart over to sin is an attempt to escape tension. And it's actually the place we're called to live as participants of the kingdom and the kinship of God. It is a place of radical tension. And so my guess would be people are trying to find a way to just say, yeah, I think
they are whacked. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, you're just making this harder than it needs to be.
Yes.
And I think this is what I love. This is why I actually love the Advent season, even the words that the global church has chosen to emphasize and, tries to recreate hope and love and joy and peace. They sound, at a first glance like such lovely words, but every single one of them, if you actually live into what they invite, is profound tension. I mean,
well, tell me how you're going to move out of, shall we say, Thanksgiving into your birthday, into the Advent season. Like, what things come as a result of Thanksgiving, your birthday, the gratitude truly of your life, which those of us who are privileged to be part of your life, we say yes, thank you. Thank you that you came to be. But how will you begin to move into the Advent world?
Well, to be honest with you, as cheesy as this will sound, I think these sisters of grief and gratitude are a necessary frame for the Advent season. I am a huge fan of twinkle lights. One of the things I love of this imagery of Advent is light kind of breaking forth into darkness, and not in a way that's like triumphant, but like what it means to still be able that sense of like, even the darkness is not dark. Like, where can I go from your presence? If I descend into darkness, even for you, the darkness is not, like, there is light there. And so we will move toward bringing light into our home in a way that to some might actually feel offensive. It's a very tangible way that we will hold this tension. But there's a sense of, in this season, of remembering the gift that is to come, reflecting on and remembering why it is such a profound gift and what is the suffering. This, I think that's why I've always O Come, Emmanuel is always and forever been my most favorite Advent hymn, because there is an agony and an ache that needs to be named and honored. And so we will seek to make space for the ache. And what does that look like? What does it look like to allow there to be space for lament in a season that many just kind of make about, to me, like, it feels very similar. Advent to me has never felt like a huge departure from the Lenten season and the Easter celebration. It's a sense of holding that tension together, that Christmas tide is coming. Like God is going to break. God has, obviously when we look at these seasons, they are a way to be reminded of our story, to live into the story. So we'll get a Christmas tree that we put lights on and we'll leave on through the night. We will try to our best to be intentional about how we will not get distracted by the kind of consumerism of this season, and we will fail. And inevitably we will fail. And we will still be the very human-sized people that we are. There will be a lot of human-sized just realities of kids finishing digital classes of this first full term of virtual school and all of the things. So I never want to make it sound like somehow we've figured out some magic formula, but we will seek to let that tension take up residence in our bodies, in our conversations, in our home, and in how we ponder, how we celebrate, how we name, how we grieve, and how we let kind of the wonder and mystery that God breaks into our world.
Mm-hmm. Well, our plan is, my son-in-law has a farm out on what's called the peninsula, and they have, acres upon acres of trees. And we're going to go get a tree. And Becky and I have a lot in common, but we also have a lot of differences. And we have never had peace regarding the tree. She wants a thick, rich, full, beautiful tree. And I'm all for it. I love that. But I like the Charlie Brown trees.
No, of course you do.
I know. It's pretty obvious. And so we've decided that I will help her cut a reasonably small but beautiful tree. And we will find a very small, scraggly, truly unlovable tree. And it really is a reflection thematically of our two lives. She is full and beautiful and invites glory. I'm a little more scraggly and a little harder to love. And those two trees somehow have the potential to hold something of the tension of what this season holds. And yes, I will join her in decorating her tree. She seldom, in her own diffidence, joins me in this scraggly little tree. She's just sort of like, why do you have to bring this motley presence? And I said, well, you married it 44 years ago. Just bear it. So you've got to find a way to mark this season. You've got to find ways, whether it is to have something sweet and sour, something salty and bitter for Thanksgiving. There are rituals we need to hold or develop to somehow provide a parenthesis in this season where we can say, I love your word. I just keep coming back to it. Defiance to not alleviate the tension, but also to not let the tension keep us from the marvel of what light has now brought into our own darkness. Well, my friend, it has been a good holiday season to engage this with you. And I am so sad that I won't get to be with you to celebrate your birthday, but we can all. Are you okay if you give your address out at the end?
No.
And we all can send you.
No, I will not be doing that.
Because I feel fairly assured I can get you a fishing shirt from Buffalo Jackson sent to you.
Thank you.
Or Becky would prefer probably that I send you one of my old shirts.
Sure.
But, well, happy Thanksgiving, and may the Advent take us to really good places.
The Allender Center podcast is produced by the Seattle School of Theology and Psychology.
If you'd like more information about the Allender Center, you can look at theallendercenter.org.